introduce our next presenter. I believe Isabel Fischer is here. Lovely, and her talk is on AI-generated formative essay and dissertation feedback. Isabel Fischer is from University of Warwick. Glad that we see our colleagues from different universities in the UK is joining us here. Hello, Isabel.
Well, hi. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and my colleagues. Not sure if they joined to were meant to perhaps join, and they'll be there for the Q&A session as well. My contribution is less, let's say, conceptual or theoretical as the previous speakers. I'm talking about a hands-on tool we've developed, and I give you in the chat, you can see a link to a blog we wrote about it. But let me just share my screen. Do you see my slides at the moment? Sorry. Yeah. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see them now. Okay,
perfect. So the tool has been developed within Warwick with a group of colleagues, and today I'm talking first about the background of the tool, then I briefly discuss our research angles, and then I provide a bit of a view on the current external AI-based writing tools like ChatGPT, which we just heard about, because I do think what we developed is still very valuable, despite now being the discussion of how much do students actually write in their own essays if they can just ask ChatGPT to write the essay for them. So first of all, our tool. So our tool was developed because it fits within our mission and our strategy, which is about ensuring that everybody has the same opportunities. And one thing we found was that when already at my previous University of Sussex, students from, let's say, higher socioeconomic backgrounds have parents, friends proofreading their essays while other students don't. And those students complained. And the idea here is to develop a tool that helps everybody, by the use of AI, to benefit from this proofreading, which they might not have otherwise. You can see on the right a survey of 115 students where we asked them, do you think WBS, like our business school, should offer AI systems? And as you can see, the majority of students actually, so we see, I guess you would just make this smaller. So the majority of students actually do agree that it's a useful tool. We then went a step further and asked, is it even better than human markers? Is it better to have an AI tool than a human marker? And as you can see, the top bar is basically students saying, yes, it is actually better. But the majority said, actually, I don't mind getting feedback from humans or from AI. And only a small minority down here said, actually, I would prefer human marker. And the interesting thing is that students tell us that academic writing is the main barrier to success. But when it comes to one-to-one tutorials that they can book, it's only a certain type of student group that actually books those one-to-one tutorials. And we can see this in our ethical, when we reviewed the ethics of our participants, who actually is interested in using the AI tool. And it's as you can see here, many students from China and from India were interested. And also important here is the number of Black students, because basically we don't have that many. So as a ratio, it is a quite high proportion. And if you think about the in-person tutorials that are booked by students, it's mainly British students. And anecdotally, we always say the Scandinavian students also book those sessions. So you can see it's a different demographic that is actually interested in our AI tool. Basically, we are a big believer, and I've just put this quote here, in formative assessment. And we see AI as the way to provide students formative assessment at scale. And now coming to our tool, I think the best feature we have is our knowledge graph. And you can see our knowledge graph here. And it's, and I have a live report I could show you. So this is our live report. And if you scroll down, this is the knowledge graph. And basically imagine you're writing a dissertation and within seconds, you get feedback where somebody drew a mind map for you, how things are connected, how things are linked. And it is clear that students really like it because it shows where they went wrong, what they perhaps didn't explain well enough, and where they should expand more on. So really, really a key feature for us is the knowledge graph. We also have other nice visualizations, which of course human markers wouldn't have. We have something called argumentative zoning, where students get feedback on what AI thinks, how much of their proportion is into introduction or conclusion or method section. And that's really relevant because in some universities, we provide students with advice on approximately do whatever 5% on the conclusion. And then when students see it, actually they really like this calculation. We also have to the right our spider graph, which shows about the various strengths they have. Are they better in grammar or are they better in word shows? So they can see their strength there. And finally, at the bottom there, what you can see is something specific for our business schools. We know that we rank papers by an ABS, a CUPS ABS ranking. And so we tell students, look, this was from a good reference, this was from an average reference. So how it looks in practice is, if we go down up on our report, here we say, for example, look, this reference from Business Ethics Quarterly was very good. Perhaps it's something you might want to draw on further. As you can see here, we have loads of other features, which we don't have time to discuss now, but it's a very comprehensive report, 15 pages long. I'm not sure how much interest there is in the technical features, but everything has been Python coded. As you can see here, we use databases such as PyTorch, Hugging Face Framework, and Transformer. It's developed based on open source communities. And we don't claim that this is our finished product, but we rather see it as an MVP at the moment. So a product that students enjoy receiving feedback on and that we want to develop further. One of the developments that we need to develop further is the user interface with our students. At the moment, it's a very manual process still, with students uploading into our VLE site, and we then downloading and providing them a Dropbox link. We try to use it for our research, and that's the main purpose of it from the start. So our research is, well, we have ethics approval in place, of course, but we're using it for writing a teaching case study. We want to do a technical contribution paper, and a colleague of mine is doing a PhD on the topic of ethics, and she uses this as the case study. Just here, just for everybody's reminder, we used the EUA AI framework, which is one of the frameworks to use, not necessarily the only framework, nor comprehensive enough to cover that ethics. However, it's a good starting point, and we used it from the start to make sure that our development is ethically sound and responsible, or as far as we thought we could do. We tested by different student groups and so on. We are not the only ones doing this. There are quite a lot of other tools and other universities doing something else, which are exciting as well. You can see in the JISC map the various AI things available in the UK, and also Australian universities like UTS and Monash have really interesting assessment tools some of them on marking forum contributions. As I said in the beginning, we mentioned ChatGPT. I do think we continue to write something, maybe let's say in a closed classroom without internet access, so that students have to do their own writing. But in any case, receiving feedback on your writing and perhaps also eventually on let's say Viva's oral contribution is essential. And so despite there being technology available to write essays, then we do think what we develop is useful, and we hope it's that more people use it, because we want more students benefiting from it. So we stop sharing my screen, and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much for a really interesting presentation, interesting talk. Yeah, if anyone has a question, please, you can just unmute and ask a question. We only have one question. We can have only one question at the moment, so that we can. Hello, Dominic. Yeah. Go.
Yes, thanks. I sort of have a question and a comment, because I think this is great. And it kind of shows some of the limitations of things like ChatGPT, where you cannot just paste a text and get this sort of this sort of feedback. So my question was, what were your decisions about the sort of the tool set? Because I'm seeing in this, there's a lot of things that are kind of combined together. And so how were you deciding which ones to use? Because some of these I sort of been arguing for a long time. They're much more important things, like the structure of the text and frequent words and things like that. So I just kind of wanted to know what was your sort of decision process around this?
So I have a background in industry. So I don't have an educational background, even though I'm now an academic, but on the research, so I developed this type of projects before. And for me, the essential bit is to work with people who know the technical side, and Lichuan and Aichi, I'm not sure if you're there, then you might want to share your screen. Otherwise, so I asked those colleagues of mine to actually try to say, what could AI do for us, rather than me saying, this is what I want AI to do. It was about, what can AI do for me? And so they came up with these ideas, what AI could do. And we put them together in a way that mirrored our marking criteria. Having said this, and this is a point I'd like to make, is speaking to colleagues, we thought it was beneficial to align it to our marking criteria, but it's something actually I think in the long term we're going to move away from, because colleagues want to see the differentiation between AI and humans. And actually we never intended to replace humans. We like augmenting, and we are complementing what humans could do. So it's about finding things AI can do, and then trying to present it so that it makes sense for students, while not infringing colleagues' fear of being replaced as an expert.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because I'm looking at the report you give. I find that many people give feedback on writing are not very good at it. And then and they particularly would not have access to this sort of level of analysis that the report can give, despite possible sort of limitations. So I guess follow-up questions, sorry, is that, are you getting, what's kind of the feedback on accuracy of the reports? So all of these things obviously come with the, maybe 80-90% accuracy. So how often do you kind of come across those issues?
Well, the interesting bit is we just do it for formative feedback, and that was for me important. So I envisaged having colleagues not being that thrilled about it, because as I said before, we all know we want to be seen as experts, and then suddenly AI replaces us, even though it's not replacing, it's, as I mentioned before, it's complementing what we are doing. So I had thought the only way to do it is to get student support. So by getting student support, I could then go back to colleagues and say, look, students really like it. And so we are only using it in formative feedback, because that's what students would give me support with. if I started to say, oh, we do an alignment and we check for accuracy with our summative assessments, I would have had also student pushback. And to avoid student pushback, we use it just purely formatively. So in that case, students improve on it and then submit their final assignment for marking. We don't align our feedback with the marks because that's not what we wanted to do. Nor do we we do check informally whether students who participate in our formative feedback do better, and they do better, but that could be not necessarily, it's a correlation, not a causation. It's students who participate in our formative feedback are students who are engaged in learning, and so they do better than other students who don't engage in the activity. But yeah, so basically we don't align with the human marker because we don't want to replace human marking. We want to provide additional formative feedback.
Great. Thank you, Dominic, for the question, and Isabel for the answers and an interesting talk.